My name is Gary Hauck. I'm the Dean of Instruction and Faculty at Montcalm Community College. And with me is Dr. Don Burns. Don is a President Emeritus of MCC, served here as the fourth president for 25 years, and before that was Dean of Students and also VP for Administration Services. So today our purpose is to chat with Don to get some of the historical windows into our institution, not only its foundations, but also those early journeys. So Don, thank you for your doing this for us today. So talk to us, the heritage and the history of Montcalm Community College. Tell us the story in your own words.
Okay, I'm not sure how one tries to capture all this and make sense out of it, but let me give it a shot.
Okay.
And I'll start with just running through a little set of frames that come to mind when I think about the college over the years. Colleges are places that should be focusing on students. Mm-hmm. And so one of the first things I think about are the students over the years. In the earliest years, and I'll sort of run through these quickly, and if you have questions, that'd be fine.
Sure.
But I think Montcalm started, like most places, with a pretty traditional way of thinking in the late 1960s. And the students were pretty traditional, primarily the 18 to 22 or 23-year-old, taking some basic transfer courses and some other training for work. The students were, as I just said, they were really quite traditional. But over the years, the student body here has changed at times. By the late 60s, early 70s, one of the big changes in the student body at Montcalm Community College would be that we rather uniquely got involved in the training of prison inmates. And there were times in those early years when we had as many or more inmates that we were training as we did students on campus. There was also in the earliest years inmates on campus. That lasted a very short time.
How did that work?
Actually, that was before I arrived. And so when you asked how did that work, maybe I would say not well. I don't know. It didn't stay. There were some that were available to come to campus. They were at a point where they could be released or that sort of thing. But most of the work that we did in those early years was in Ionia. But there are a number of prisons in Ionia, 5, 6 prisons in Ionia. So we eventually were teaching in nearly all of those.
Credit coursework.
Credit coursework. Initially, very traditional. So that was a change in student body. In the early 70s and throughout the 70s, we also had quite a few Vietnam vets because that was just part of the makeup of the country at that time, and they came with benefits. The next group that I remember coming through was CETA, and CETA stood for something. It was a federal funded program. And
is that CETA?
CETA.
Okay.
We still have, I believe, some employees at this college that came through that, and then they not only did they train through that, but became employees here, and some still here. It was during that period of time that the Lyons Chrysler plant closed. It was in the two little communities of Lyons and Muir, and it closed, and 800 and some employees, and they needed to be retrained, and that made an impact on our institution. We worked with them, and they had CETA funding, and they came here and retrained. So that affected our student body at that time.
Okay.
Some of the other changes in the student body, I would say, is clearly not too many years before I retired. I remember sitting at a commencement, and out of maybe 100 and some students that crossed the podium, 3 were males. Clearly, over time, the number of females enrolled in programs and completing programs increased significantly.
3 males walked.
Well, now, there were other people who could have,
Sure.
but Now, a change in the student body that's not unique to Montcalm, but the students became older. I guess we all became older, but the student body, of course,
Sure.
became older than the ages of students. And then in the from 2003, 2004, 5, 6, and so on, the student body here was greatly impacted by dislocated workers. So it's just the student body changed over time.
Sure.
And it's just a little view, as best I remember, of how that worked. Maybe a comment too on over the years how the faculty changed. In the earliest years, the faculty were hired to come in and teach, and that's what they did, and they did a good job with that. And in those earliest years, they also had to bargain contracts and do things and so on. But what I saw happen over the years, I think partially they learned, partially we learned how to work better together, and they participated in more things for the college in general. And they understood, they gained a better understanding of the community and how best to serve. So they became really participants in the way the college operated and functioned. And beyond participation, they took ownership. I've often shared with other people some of the, I think, most significant pieces that we accomplished at this institution we were able to accomplish because of faculty leadership. They not only in helping to bargain contracts and so on, but to design curriculum that really met community needs and to take strong ownership and then ultimately leadership in assisting adjunct, non-tenured, and tenured faculty to be the best that they could be. They developed mechanisms for assisting, helping, encouraging, and at times overseeing and monitoring and insisting that our faculty were really the best that they could be.
That's excellent. That's good.
The curriculum, I don't know that it's particularly unique to Montcalm, but again, we started with a pretty traditional curriculum. Excuse me.
Sure.
We had transfer courses and we had some basic training courses, in welding and in construction and so on. Over time, I think we developed curriculum that was not just some ideas that people put together and thought, this is a good curriculum, let's design it, get it in place, and sell it to the people.
Sure.
But in fact learned a little bit better how to be more responsive and look and see what was needed in design in response to need as opposed to designing something with the idea of then selling it to people.
Response to needs in the community.
Right. I think what we learned to do with our curriculum too was get it connected with the K-12 curriculum, get it connected. There was always work in having it connected with the transfer piece, but getting it connected with other institutions so that people could transfer in and out of here, back and forth, and also so there were more options for students. For instance, the Michigan Community College Virtual Learning Collaborative, very important piece in terms of students having access to curriculum. Initially, students would come and look at what was in our catalog, and that's what was available. Well, that's not the case now. They can take coursework from any of the other community colleges in the state. They can take coursework. Whoa.
We need to wave our hands because it's there we go.
Okay.
Motion.
Sometimes over history we were in the dark. Once again.
Good object lesson.
And the final thing I'd say about curriculum is that in the earliest days, things were scheduled at a time and place, period. And and not many sections because there wasn't the volume. So that's how it was, generally during the day, not in the evening, not on the weekend, and of course, in a certain location.
Mhm.
Now, of course, the curriculum is so much more available, not only numbers of sections, but locations, and with the technologies, just so much more available.
So were you the president when we added the Ionia Center and PAC and the MTech Center and so forth? Did that all
Right.
happen under your leadership?
Right.
Okay.
And I'll come back to that a bit in terms of talking about how,
Mhm.
how we did all
Okay.
of those
Sure.
pieces. Just this first sort of frame I'm thinking through is thinking about the students and the faculty and the curriculum, the staff too. Initially, people were hired, secretaries, custodians, administrative people that, they had pretty specific jobs, and they were in relatively traditional kinds of roles. And the thing that I think that emerged over time is the staff, like the faculty, became more participative in what was going on at the institution, more involved in it, more ownership, and more leadership. But also the kinds of work that they did changed to what they do now. Now it's more specialized with the technologies, and wherever they're working here, their work is relatively specialized, and they're more professional, and there's professional development involved in all aspects. So there's a change with the staff as well. The community, again, this college was established in Montcalm County in the 1960s. As a matter of fact, a number of years back, maybe 10, 12 years ago, maybe a little longer, we moved commencement from 8 o'clock in the evening to a little earlier. And at the time, the question was, why is it 8 o'clock? It seems a little late.
Mm-hmm.
And people were sort of batting it around. Why doesn't it seem a little late? Well, I wonder why. And it rather quickly dawned on me, I know why. You couldn't do it till the chores were done.
Sure.
This was an ag community, a farm community.
Mm-hmm.
And some initial board members were ag people, and you wouldn't do commencement until the chores were done.
Sure.
Well, that's no longer necessary. So those times get you. But from an ag community, this whole area really became quite dependent on manufacturing. People worked in the factories. They worked in the factories in Lansing and in Grand Rapids, and locally in the Greenville area, a number of factories. That was the base. From the 1960s forward, the social service sector really developed also, in addition to what went on in education. So a lot of people in the area that were part of the service sector. And the people who worked in all the prisons, lots of prisons in the area. So I guess I'm just talking about the community itself, the people, the makeup. And currently, for instance, healthcare, by far the largest employer, not only in this county, but in Gratiot County nearby. There aren't any entities that have anything that comes close to the number of employees in healthcare. So we are part of a community. So as the community changes, so do our marching orders, so to speak. Looking
New
at who we
nursing
serve.
lab and new nursing programs
Right.
and so forth.
Yep.
Yeah.
You should be able to, from some bird's eye view way up there, look and see what's going on in a community. It should tell you what's happening at the college. That isn't always the case, but it should be.
Okay, sure.